In this episode of Tales of High Strangeness, we embark on a journey into the heart of one of the most enduring and enigmatic urban legends of all time, the legend of the Vanishing Hitchhiker. This ghostly figure has appeared on roadsides all around the world for decades, if not centuries. Its story has been told and retold countless times, inspiring fear and fascination in equal measure. But where did this legend originate? And why has it captured our imaginations for so long? First documented in the early 20th century, the Vanishing Hitchhiker has become a ubiquitous feature of popular culture, inspiring countless stories, movies, and songs. Despite the differences in each version of the legend, the basic narrative remains the same. A hitchhiker appears by the side of the road, and a good, unsuspecting Samaritan offers them a ride. But as the journey progresses, the driver realizes that something is not quite right. Could it be the awkward conversation or the strange appearance of the driver's companion? Then, out of nowhere, the hitchhiker disappears from the car, leaving behind only a sense of unease and a haunting story. What makes the Vanishing Hitchhiker legend so enduringly fascinating? Is there any truth to the tales? Or are they just urban myths passed down from generation to generation? We will explore the history, cultural significance, and possible explanations of this eerie phenomenon. As we journey through the tales of the Vanishing Hitchhiker, we will encounter stories from all over the US, each with their own unique and spine-tingling details. So, buckle up and join us on this eerie ride as we explore the legend of the Vanishing Hitchhiker. We can't promise you won't feel a chill down your spine or that you won't look twice before offering a ride to a stranger on the other side of the road. But we can promise you a journey into the unknown, where the line between fact and fiction is blurred, and the truth is stranger than anything we could ever imagine. As the last of the sunlight began to fade over the rolling hills of rural Pennsylvania, a young couple, Jack and Diane, were winding their way back home after a night out. Jack, a burly young man with a thick beard and tattoos, was driving the car, while Diane, a petite blonde with piercing green eyes, sat in the passenger seat. As they drove down the winding road, Jack spotted a hitchhiker standing by the roadside, waving his hand in the air. Despite Diane's protests, Jack pulled over and offered the stranger a ride. The hitchhiker, a tall and lanky man with long black hair and a tattered leather jacket, climbed into the back seat of the car. He introduced himself as John and said he was on his way to visit family in a nearby town. As they drove, the couple struck up a conversation with John. He spoke in a soft, low voice and seemed polite enough, if a little reserved. But as they approached the outskirts of the town, something strange began to happen. Jack noticed that the radio in the car had begun to crackle with static, and the headlights seemed to dim. Suddenly, the car shuddered and came to a halt. Jack cursed and tried to start the engine, but it wouldn't turn over. As they sat there, confused in the dark, trying to figure out what was happening, Jack turned to the back seat to apologize to John for the inconvenience. He was struck when he noticed that their passenger was no longer there. His presence in the car had been so unobtrusive they hadn't seen him leave. But now, there was no sign of him. Panic began to set in as they realized that they were stranded in the middle of nowhere, in the dead of night, with no idea where John had gone or how to get the car started. After what seemed like an eternity, a passing motorist stopped and helped them to get the car running again. But when they recounted their experience to the police and locals, they were met with skepticism and disbelief. Nobody knew of any John fitting the description they gave, and the area where they had encountered him was known to be haunted by spirits of long-dead travelers. Despite their skepticism, Jack and Diane couldn't shake the feeling that something otherworldly had happened that night. They couldn't explain how John had vanished from the back seat of their car, or why the car had stopped working so suddenly. It was a mystery that would haunt them for many years to come. As they had later learned, the area where they had encountered the hitchhiker had a long history of ghostly sightings and paranormal activity. Many travelers had reported similar encounters with vanishing hitchhikers, leaving behind nothing but an eerie sense of unease. For Jack and Diane, the experience was a chilling reminder of the power of urban legends and ghost stories to capture the human imagination and leave us with a sense of wonder and terror long after the encounter is over. It was a dark and stormy night in the heart of Louisiana, and Marie was driving home for a long day of work. She was a young nurse, known for her kindness and her willingness to help those in need. As she drove down the deserted back roads, she spotted a hitchhiker walking along the side of the road. He was a tall, gaunt man with a haggard appearance and a wild look in his eyes. Despite her initial misgivings, Marie felt a twinge of compassion for him and pulled over to offer him a ride. The hitchhiker climbed into the car and Marie asked him where he was headed. He mumbled something about needing to get to his brother's house, but his words were slurred and difficult to understand. As they drove, the man's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He fidgeted in his seat, muttered to himself, and occasionally laughed maniacally for no apparent reason. Marie began to feel uneasy, but she didn't want to abandon the stranger in the middle of the storm. Finally, they arrived at the address he had given her. It was a run-down house on the outskirts of town, with peeling paint and broken windows. The man thanked Marie for the ride, but when she turned to look at him, he was gone. Puzzled, Marie got out of the car and walked up to the house. She knocked on the door, but there was no answer. When she tried the handle, it was unlocked, and she cautiously stepped inside. The interior was dimly lit, with an overpowering stench of decay. Marie heard strange noises coming from the shadows, and her heart began to race with fear. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of her, but it was not the hitchhiker she had given a ride to. It was the ghostly apparition of a man with bloodshot eyes and a crazed expression on his face. He lunged at her, and she felt a cold, clammy hand close around her throat. Marie awoke several hours later, lying on the side of the road. She had no memory of how she got there, or what had happened to her. When she returned to the address where she had dropped off the hitchhiker, she found that the house was abandoned and had been for many years. To this day, Marie's encounter with the vanishing hitchhiker of Louisiana remains one of the most chilling stories in the annals of paranormal lore. Some believe that the hitchhiker was a vengeful spirit seeking revenge for some past misdeed, while others speculate that he was an entity from another dimension, passing through our world for a brief and terrifying moment. Whatever the truth behind Marie's encounter, it serves as a haunting reminder of the power of the unknown and the fragility of our understanding of the world around us. The vanishing hitchhiker remains a mystery, an enigmatic figure that continues to haunt the highways and byways of the world, leaving behind nothing but questions and an eerie sense of unease. In the early 1970s, a couple named Tom and Susan were driving home from a night out on the town in Los Angeles. They were enjoying the warm California breeze with the windows down when they noticed a young woman was walking along the side of the road. She was dressed in a tattered white dress and appeared to be barefoot. Despite the late hour, she looked remarkably serene and content. As they drove closer to her, Tom and Susan slowed down to offer her a ride. The woman accepted, and they soon struck up a conversation. She told them her name was Mary, and that she was on her way to a nearby town to visit her family. Tom and Susan were happy to give her a ride, and they chatted amiably for several miles. As they approached the town where Mary claimed to be headed, she suddenly became quiet and withdrawn. When they arrived at the address she had given them, she thanked them for the ride and got out of the car. Tom and Susan watched her disappear into the darkness and then drove away, feeling slightly unsettled by the abrupt change in her demeanor. It wasn't until they arrived home that they realized something was very wrong. Susan had left her sweater in the car, and when they looked at it, they found a small, bloody handprint on the back. Shaken and bewildered, they immediately contacted the police. When the authorities arrived at the address where Mary had been dropped off, they found a cemetery. After searching through records, they discovered that a young woman named Mary had been killed in a car accident several years earlier. It was rumored that her ghost haunted the stretch of road where she had died, and that she had often appeared to motorists in distress, only to vanish without a trace. Tom and Susan's encounter with the Vanishing Hitchhiker of Los Angeles remains one of the most chilling tales of the paranormal that has been the subject of many retellings and adaptations. Some people believe that Mary's spirit is trapped in a loop of endlessly seeking a ride to her family's home, while others think she is still searching for a way to say goodbye to her loved ones. Whatever the explanation behind Mary's appearance, her story serves as a potent reminder of the power of the supernatural and the mysteries that still lurk in the shadows of our world. The Vanishing Hitchhiker phenomenon is one that has fascinated and terrified people for decades, and it continues to be a subject of intense fascination for those who seek to understand the unexplainable. Before I conclude this story, I just want to say thank you for choosing to watch this video, and I hope you're enjoying my narration. If you are, please hit that like button, and if you don't already, subscribe to my channel. Also, those of you that have been kind enough to support me on my new Patreon account were able to get early access to the audio of this story ad-free prior to my YouTube upload. I have a starting tier of just $3 per month for early access and $9 per month exclusive content access tier, where you not only get access to behind-the-scenes content, but also an exclusive Tales of High Strangeness pin. Also, I must just take a brief moment to announce we have launched a new merch store on our website, daredevil.com. We are doing a limited run on this R.I.P. Mr. Sinister shirt, and you can also get these super comfortable Bella and Canvas hoodies I wear in my videos. We'll have more merch launching soon. In the late 1980s, a group of college students from the University of Wisconsin-Madison decided to take a road trip to Chicago for a weekend of fun and adventure. They were 4 friends who had been studying hard all semester and needed a break from the grind of college life. On their way back from the trip, they encountered a young woman hitchhiking on the side of the road. She was standing in the moonlight, dressed in a long, flowing dress that seemed to shimmer in the light. She had an ethereal quality about her that was both alluring and unsettling. The students, feeling charitable, stopped to offer her a ride. They could see that she was cold and shivering, and they wanted to help her out. As they drove along, the young woman was quiet and reserved, only speaking when spoken to. She seemed lost in thought, as if she had had something on her mind. When they reached their destination, she thanked them for the ride and got out of the car, disappearing into the night. The students didn't think much of the encounter until they realized that the young woman had left her shawl in the back seat of the car. Concerned for her well-being, they decided to try and return the shawl to her. They retraced their steps to the location where they had picked her up, but she was nowhere to be found. Perplexed, they searched the area for any signs of her, but she had vanished without a trace. As they drove back to Wisconsin, they began to piece together the details of their encounter and came to the chilling realization that they had just encountered a vanishing hitchhiker. But it wasn't until they showed the shawl to one of their professors, a historian of folklore and legends, that they learned the true significance of their encounter. The shawl, it turned out, was made from a rare and valuable fabric that had been out of production for decades. The young woman they had encountered was none other than the ghost of a woman who had died many years earlier in a car accident. She was known to appear to travelers in distress, offering comfort and solace before disappearing into the night, leaving behind a tangible reminder of her otherworldly presence. A student's encounter with the Vanishing Hitchhiker of Wisconsin remains a haunting reminder of the power of urban legends and ghost stories to capture the human imagination and to leave us with a sense of unease and wonder after the encounter is over. It's clear that the Vanishing Hitchhiker phenomenon has a long and storied history, with countless variations on the same basic narrative. Whether it's a young woman in a white dress, a spectral hitchhiker with long black hair, or a mysterious man in a tattered leather jacket, the Vanishing Hitchhiker continues to captivate our imaginations and to inspire us to think about the mysteries of the world around us. One possible explanation for the Vanishing Hitchhiker is mass hysteria, a phenomenon in which groups of people can collectively imagine or remember supernatural events that never actually occurred. This could explain why so many people claim to have encountered the same ghostly figure on roadsides all over the world. Another possibility is suggestibility or a heightened state of awareness caused by the eerie nature of the encounter. These factors can cause individuals to imagine or remember details that never actually occurred, leading to the spread of the Vanishing Hitchhiker legend. However, with the rise of technology and the internet, the spread and perpetuation of urban legends like the Vanishing Hitchhiker has become easier than ever. With social media and online forums, stories and legends can be shared and disseminated at an unprecedented rate, making it easier for urban legends to take hold and become part of the cultural zeitgeist. At the same time, the internet has also made it easier to debunk and demystify urban legends, as fact-checking and research can be done quickly and easily online. As such, the Vanishing Hitchhiker phenomenon remains a fascinating example of how folklore and legends can spread and evolve over time, shaping our perceptions of the world around us and leaving us with a sense of mystery and wonder that can be both exhilarating and unsettling. Throughout this episode, we've explored the stories of several individuals who claim to have encountered the Vanishing Hitchhiker, each with their own unique and eerie details. From the haunted roads of rural Pennsylvania to the stormy nights of Louisiana, the encounters with the Vanishing Hitchhiker have left their marks on those who have experienced them. The Vanishing Hitchhiker phenomenon remains one of the most enduring and fascinating urban legends in our collective consciousness. It continues to capture our imaginations and to inspire us to think about the mysteries of the world around us. This episode of Tales of High Strangeness was written and narrated by me, James Deverell. Thank you for watching this video. Again, if you enjoyed it, please don't forget to hit the like button, and if you don't already, subscribe to my channel. I have just launched the podcast version of this YouTube channel on all major podcast platforms, so don't forget to head over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and subscribe. Right now, the content on there is ad-free, so you can take advantage of that. Don't forget to check out the content I'm releasing on other platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And finally, if you or anyone else you know has a story about anything related to high strangeness, please reach out to me with a brief description to stories@daredeverell.com. Thanks again for watching.